Don't we look like a couple of jackasses? Or sound like a couple of jackasses for those of you who are, who are listening to some podcasts. Yep, all three of us. I think for the first time, I think you said that, BK, for the first time ever, all three of us picked um, against, to be Canadian, the Chiefs in a game. We all had the Ravens winning this game. And not only did the Ravens not win this game, the Chiefs whooped that ass. And it wasn't even close as the final of 37-20. And are you, let me ask you all this. Were you all more surprised about how Sunday's game happened, or were you more surprised about the outcome of the Super Bowl?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because I mean, both of them were, to me, surprising. I still lean Super Bowl. I'm still a bit shocked that they came out so shell shocked and could never find an answer. But yeah, Sunday was pretty close.
I would still say the Super Bowl. You don't see that defense look that way against opposing teams almost ever, especially unless they have like Josh Allen. Josh Allen sometimes makes the defense look pretty bad. He's like the only guy that makes a Steve Spagnuolo defense look the way they did against Philadelphia. They had zero answers the entire day.
On either side of the ball.
Yeah, that one still shocks me the way that it happened.
Yeah, but Sunday I can't. I did not. Obviously, to me, I picked them to lose. I just thought it would just be I thought the Ravens would get a lead and there would be an uphill climb because they could control things right now with the way the teams are. I certainly did not see, Pat's going to come out of the game with 6 minutes left in it. And we be texting back and forth, 4 minutes earlier. Hey, man, why is he still in the game? Hey, boss, it's 30. It is 30-13 with a minute left in the third. Like, I did not see that coming. And then they just toyed with him again and said, go ahead, Hollywood. See if we can get you one-on-one. And they said, dropped it in, and it's 37-13. And that joker went out for another series. I did not see them just bum rushing them boys like that. They had no answers. Now, listen, I'm not going to say, I hate when people do this and say grown men quit. I don't believe Lamar Jackson quit. I believe Lamar Jackson was very frustrated, but I believe clearly Lamar Jackson got hurt.
Had some practice all week.
But I mean, they made multiple people sit down. Right? Like, I don't think any of them faked him, but old Nate Wiggins, he had to sit his ass down because he got ran over by Isaiah Pacheco, and he's coming out on a cart because of his arm. Right? I was surprised that they clearly looked like they didn't belong on the same field.
I think what bothers me most about my pick, Ron, because I'm so happy that we got to see that. It brought me back to being like, all right, they're going to be fine. I don't even care what happens this week. I have full confidence. Chiefs are going to be fine this year. They're going to the playoffs. They're probably a Super Bowl contender still.
I just don't believe you. I don't believe that you don't care what happens this week.
No, I'm saying obviously I care about what happens this week, but it will not deter the fact that I believe this team is a Super Bowl contender regardless of what happens on Monday night. I care about the outcome, but it will not affect how I feel about the team long term. And that was because we finally saw them do the thing. They made the opposing team look bad defensively, and offensively, they stepped up in such a massive way. Ron, what annoys me, though, is how did I not see it coming? Why was I surprised? Why was I surprised that Steve Spagnuolo came out with an unbelievable game plan against Lamar Jackson the way that, he has every time that they've gone up against Lamar Jackson? This always happens. Lamar always falls short. when he goes up against the Kansas City Chiefs. He is now 1-6 in his NFL career against the Chiefs. He's amazing against every other team that he plays for the most part. At times, he has his shortcomings against the Bills, but more often than not, he plays well against them. It's more similar to what Josh Allen does against the Chiefs, where, yeah, he loses, but he's amazing. Against the Chiefs, the Chiefs have an answer for the Ravens offense that seemingly no other team has. They always find a way to limit what Derrick Henry does. They put them into these disadvantageous game scripts where they're playing from behind, which is not the way that the Ravens want to play. It makes them lose their mind. Lamar Jackson suddenly is throwing the ball away on a 4th down, which defeats the entire purpose of even going for it on that 4th down. It looked as though he was spooked, and it looks that way a lot of the time when he goes up against Steve Spagnuolo. So what I'm annoyed by, Ron, is almost nothing that happened in that game. It was glorious to watch from start to finish. What I'm annoyed by is that it did surprise me, because it shouldn't have, and it shouldn't have surprised any of us, because this is always what happens when the Chiefs and the Ravens meet.
And thinking back on it, it's like, well, we should have put more stock into how banged up the Ravens were. Because I was going into the game thinking like, yeah, they're banged up, but they're desperate. And I still think like when healthy, this Ravens team is really, really good. And their offense can put up points on anyone. And so I think we should have taken that into account more. But also, like, I don't regret picking that, because how many times over the last 2 years have I picked the Kansas City Chiefs and been like, Mahomes will find a way, Andy Reid will find a way, and generally they do, but it hasn't been like that, and it hasn't been fun to watch, it hasn't been exciting, and it hasn't been dominant. Like, that was the most dominant performance we've seen from that team in legitimately like 2 years. And so if that's what it took, like me just disregarding the circumstances of the game and saying like, oh, well, the narrative is that the Ravens are more desperate for the Chiefs to actually turn it around and finally get that kind of win, I'm going to own up to it. And I am totally fine with the fact that I picked the Ravens, because we've just seen such a large body of work of this team playing so frustratingly stale that I wasn't sure they had it in them anymore. And they finally showed that they did. And yeah, in the same instance, yeah, that Ravens defense unbelievably banged up, and they lost even more key players throughout this entire contest. We just haven't seen it look that easy for the Chiefs on offense in years. And so I don't care. That's an NFL team. That's still the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Like, that's still a multiple-time MVP, and I still think that Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the NFL. And so I don't even care that I didn't pick the Chiefs to win in this one, because I'm so thrilled with how the game actually played out.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to be surprised with the offensive output. Like that you didn't see that coming. And I mean, I think we all thought,
and they're lying. They're lying if they say they did.
I think we all thought Worthy would change the picture, but I mean, we didn't know he would change the entire damn canvas. Like, I mean, nobody. I mean, I think you're allowed to be. Now, I wasn't surprised that they would have a game plan. Now, again, I did not take into account that the Ravens would also personally take Derrick Henry out of the game themselves, with only giving him 10 touches, which they seem to do at times. So, I mean, I don't. That also helped. I did not think, hey, he'd have 8 carries. Right, and two receptions. So I don't know that I would look at that as a surprise. The defense, yes, you figured they would be able to do things, but that offensive performance, bro, that is allowed. And I have heard this from a lot of people as well about. Well, I mean, hey, the Ravens are the worst defense in the NFL, and they lost Roquan Smith, and they lost Marlon Humphrey in there, and they were playing without Van Noy, and they were playing without their whole defensive line. Listen, I think that is all accurate. But what else I think is accurate is they would have done in almost any team the way they played. They would have done in defensively. If that team walked out there, they would have beat the Eagles. And they would have put up 28, 30 points on the Eagles. That wasn't just no, oh boy, they beat a depleted team. All right. Hey, he was going to run past people, whether it was the Eagles, whether it was the Chargers. Xavier Worthy was going to run past people. Xavier Worthy is going to be a problem on reverses, right? Like they were going to be a problem. The Chiefs didn't come in there and take advantage of the big advantage you would think you would take advantage of with the Ravens. They didn't run it great. They ran it like kind of normal. Worthy led them in 38 yards, led them in rushing. They didn't run it crazy. But they did, man. What they did Sunday, it wouldn't just, they did it against that injured team. I don't know, man. I think a lot of people would have had some problems with them jokers. I mean, I watched Xavier Worthy on a simple route spin that boy around multiple times, and he was covering the slot receiver by the time he spun back around and figured it out. So, I get the Ravens struggle, but that offense was going to give most everybody problems. I'm going to tell you the contenders. They'd have gave the Bills hell.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They would give the Ravens hell. I think they'd give the Chargers hell. I'm watching the Chargers get lucky. They're giving up receivers up and down the field. They just people ain't been able to complete them. Right? I mean, Bo Nix had about 4 touchdown passes against the Chargers that he missed. Right? So I don't know, man. That performance to me went past, whoa, look who they got missing. Look what they did it against. No, they would have done a lot of people in.
I agree. And the offense I thought it was encouraging to see it. How much of that is like going to carry over to this week? We'll get into that here in just a little bit. To me, the side that I needed to see, Ron, because like what spooked me the most in week 1 was the defense. And it took a while for that stench to get off of them because like they played pretty well defensively against Philadelphia. They did a pretty good job against the Giants, but you could say like, yeah, but it was the Giants. It was Russell Wilson. He was so bad in that game that they decided to bench him the following week, right? So there were the caveats there. So I needed to see it again from the defense. And now that I have, and there are almost no caveats on the Baltimore Ravens offensively. Yes, I understand Ronnie Stanley at some point got hurt in that game. They were already mostly getting pretty beat up by the Chiefs defense at that point in time. So like the defense is what really allowed me to continue to dream on this team. I always assumed the Chiefs offense would get better throughout the season. Worthy getting reincorporated. Eventually, Rashee Rice now, a few weeks from now, he'll get reincorporated. This offense was always going to have answers for it. The defense, there was really nothing new that they could add to the mix. It was just do you have the right guys or not? Is it going to be fixed or not? And now I can say pretty definitively, I think it is. I think the defense is going to be fine or good at best. So that to me was the biggest thing that I took, that I was able to learn that in this game, and now we can project that forward, and we can just assume, all right, Chiefs defense is going to be fine. It was just a really weird week 1, and it took a little while for us to catch up to the fact that they're going to be able to do this consistently.
And like I'd go even farther that like I think their defense is good. Like I think it's really good. And I like I mentioned it multiple times. I legitimately believe week 1 they were just so caught off guard by the fact that the Chargers came out like after being one of the run heaviest teams in the NFL last year with Greg Roman, like they just came out and they started slinging it. And that's carried over for the Chargers through 4 weeks. They're one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL. Like that's just simply how they're deciding to run their offense now. And I think it was a huge surprise to everyone. I think the Chiefs legitimately were not game planning for that in week 1, and Justin Herbert just absolutely torched them. And since then, their secondary has been awesome. And it's been mostly without Christian Fulton. It's been Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie playing well, Brian Cook playing out of his mind, Jaden Hicks figuring things out, and then Noel Williams like getting in the mix, and Chamari Connor even like playing pretty well. Like
we found a spot for him.
Like their secondary has been awesome, and it's helped the pass rush, because I still have questions about how great the pass rush is honestly going to be. But if the secondary plays this well, the pass rush is going to be okay because it's just going to help everything out. And that's been the biggest difference maker from week 1 to now we're heading into week 5, is that the secondary's just been awesome.
Yeah, my concern with the defense was never that. It was going to be more than that. And it looked like a bunch of personal mental errors that led to a lot of what happened against the Chargers. I think there's a point that you make, Serda, especially for the first half, that they may have been caught off guard, but they were just they were just unloading guys. Like Will Dissly's just running down the field and nobody's even picking him up for 20 yards. The first big play they got, like the receiver comes across at the line of scrimmage. Shamari Connors just lets him run past him. They just had so many errors. Like the guys they have over there with the coach, man, maybe they weren't going to be the defense for 2 years ago, but I felt like they would be all right. The reason why teams feared the Chiefs and why that fear has felt like it's been gone for the last year plus is not because the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has been as best that it's ever been in the Mahomes era the last 2 years, and the fear has dissipated for teams. I saw it come back on Sunday. That was maybe the biggest thing to me was John Harbaugh came into a game where they were 2.5-point favorites, and everybody knew the injuries. Now, there were some other ones that came about, but everybody knew that their defensive line wasn't going to be there. Everybody knew they had some injuries. They came in as a 2.5-point favorite, and with the better roster, is what everyone believed, the better roster. And at some point in the first half of that game, John Harbaugh, I don't know if he saw those red jerseys and he flashed back, but he started treating the Chiefs as if, oh God, we got to be aggressive. We got to go for it on fourth down in our own territory. We got to do that multiple times. We can't punt the ball back to them. Even though the Chiefs have been scoring like the Jaguars for a year plus. 17 here, 19 here, give me 20. 22 was their season high, right? They've been scoring like that. He looked over there and he had fear. He had fear that at 13-7, the game was about to get away from him. When has that happened? When has that? Teams have not felt. I'll be honest. I thought that was gone. Like I thought that was gone. I thought they were gonna. He lost his mind like Andy did against the Eagles when he went for it. But at least Andy did it in the second half. He did it multiple times. He did it in the first, like 13-7. Oh shit, it's over. What was it 13-7? Yeah, I think it was 13-7. Mm-hmm. He said, "Oh boy, it's over. I gotta go. I gotta go now." And I thought that Chiefs fear was gone, and then they played on their heels the rest of the way.
And it wasn't just that they went for it, Ron, because that's a typical Ravens move there. Like they've been doing this for years, especially against the Chiefs. Like every time that they go up against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they get overly aggressive. They were at their 41-yard line and it's 4th and 1. And that spot, Ron, it's like, all right, you have Derrick Henry in your backfield. Like, I understand going for it here, even though it is hyper aggressive. That's not what they did, though. They took Derrick Henry off of the field. And then if I remember correctly, I believe it was an empty formation on that play. And then Lamar.
I think they had Justice
Hill in the backfield.
Back there, yeah.
So then they try to throw it on 4th and 1. Lamar has to just get rid of it because he's got pressure in his face and he's got nowhere to go with it. That's where I was like, oh boy, this is going to get out of hand. And they were right. Like they were right in how they were feeling that the game was eventually going to go. And I think they could feel it because, man, the Chiefs' 3 prior drives, it was 9 plays, 50 yards, field goal, 14 plays, 80 yards, field goal, 5 plays, 55 yards, touchdown. Like they were moving the ball consistently. And it felt, you guys both mentioned this, for the first time in, I don't know, since 2022 probably, it felt easy. it just felt like nothing was getting in their way.
Like
they
a
were
rhythm.
able to do basically whatever it is that they wanted. They didn't have a great running game on Sunday. That's nothing new. But for the most part, everything they tried to do, they were successful in doing it. Anywhere that Mahomes wanted to attack, he was finding success in doing so. So, man, it's the first time that I've just really been able to enjoy every second of a Chiefs game in a while because it didn't feel hard. It didn't feel painful when the offense was on the football field. That felt like classic Chiefs.
Yeah, it did. That we haven't seen in several years. All right. Let's go when the Chiefs have the ball, because that's the big thing that people are now thinking, oh, this is a completely different deal. And what Xavier Worthy added to this offense, they put up 37 in that game. And honest to God, they could have approached 50 if they had not shut it down the way they were playing last week. For you, though, this is a different game, right? This is the metrics and the numbers all across the board. The Ravens aren't in the same stratosphere of the Jags right now defensively, and they're not all hurt. The most important thing in this game when the Chiefs have the ball is
it's the same thing we talked about so much over the last couple of years, but especially against this defense. It's the same story as we talked about against the Bills at times, where they are the turnover merchants. That's what this team is. This is the turnovers force, takeaways by the Jaguars defense by week so far this year on 3-3-3-4. They have been unbelievable at taking the football away from you. So if you're the Chiefs this week, just don't allow them to get the extra possessions. That's how their offense is having success, because their offense hasn't been great this year. It's been fine. We'll get to it here in a little bit, but really their success is coming from short fields, getting extra possessions, and their defense taking the football away from you. It's probably worth noting they've done this against Cincinnati, Carolina, Houston, and San Francisco. Not exactly the Chiefs when it comes to what they're doing offensively, but still, credit where it's due. The Jaguars defense has been pretty darn good overall. And the biggest thing they've done, they're the best in the NFL right now at turning the football over. Almost 1 in every 3 drives for the opposition ends in a turnover. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, they have 13 already this year. I think they had like 9 interceptions all of last year. Like they've surpassed that already with what they have done this year. It's been crazy. Like and I agree.
Chiefs forced 20 turnovers the entirety of last year.
I got 13.
The Jags defense is one of the biggest surprises in all of the NFL. Like legitimately.
Yes. Again, we'll see. I question how good they are defensively. Is this a Buffalo type of thing? Because Buffalo's defense was opportunistic and they turned people over. And that's what they have done. Now, as Pat Mahomes spoke to the media on Thursday, I agree with what he said. They are forcing these turnovers, right? For the most part. This isn't just, oh, here we go. Now, let me take that back. Jake Browning threw them a couple. Yeah, Jake Browning, and they somehow lost that game. And he threw them a couple. But they are coming in. They're tip balls. They do that a lot. They may be one of the best teams in the league at punching the ball out. They have done that a ton. So you got to beware of that. So yeah, I think that is the big point. But I would also like to counter. What I hope is that, as you just said, and you talked about it too, Steve, but as you said, BK, that felt like the old Chiefs. I think turnovers is a big deal. I do think they feast on turnovers. And I honestly, I think if the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, I think the Jags are going to have a hard time going the length of the field, because I think they're just going to have a hard time scoring without help. But one of the things that I have hated about watching the Chiefs and this Chiefs dynamic and their mindset, and it's been tough to argue because they have been to 3 Super Bowls. They've been to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. in the last 2 years is they're playing a lot of the game in a way of, all right, let's go and attack this game the way it's dictated. All right, we're playing a certain team like for instance, we're playing the Jags. They feast on turnovers. They're probably going to have a hard time scoring. Yeah, let's just be smart. Let's possess the ball. Not be afraid to kick field goals. Let's just put, points on the board. And if we get to 20, we should be fine. What I liked about the Chiefs that we grew accustomed to was they didn't give a damn what the game dictated or how that team played. They said, we're gonna try to put 30 on your head at the half, and let's see if you can keep up. It seemed like their goal used to be, let's get a 2-possession game. And if we get a 2-possession game, you don't have a chance because you're not going to stop us that often for this game to get close again. And more times than not, teams would panic like the Ravens did, and they would do things out of character, and they would go for 4th downs, and they would do things, and the next thing you know, you look up there and they're down by 25. And I hope that Andy looks at this team. Obviously, Rashid Rice isn't back yet, but this is still a team we just saw Sunday that has big weapons. I hope they dictate the game by doing what they do and not just, all right, let's play the hand. The hell with it. You are the hand. I hope, yes, turnovers is a thing you want to avoid, but I hope that they get back to dictating what's happening in the game and not playing by what the so-called, as I said, hand is dealt.
I'm really curious to see what the game plan looks like in this one because, I do tend to agree with you, Ron. I don't think the Jags are this overwhelmingly talented defense. Devin Lloyd is playing great so far this year. Tyson Campbell is an interesting young corner. Jordan Lewis is playing at maybe a Pro Bowl level in the nickel. So they've got some guys that are playing at a high level. Trevon Walker, who we mentioned, I don't know if he's going to be able to play on Monday.
He had wrist surgery, yeah.
So they've got some good players, don't get me wrong. I think it's more about they're just really well coached right now. And the same thing is true of the offense. We'll get to them here in just a minute, but it's just a well-coached unit and they all flow together pretty well. So I'm curious to see, because last week, I don't know if you guys felt the same way. For the first time, certainly this year, and really for the first time in a while, it felt as though the Chiefs had a lot of weapons on the field. Like at any given time, you can go to Kelsey, you can go to Worthy, you can go to Hollywood. Juju got involved a little bit. Tyquan had his touchdown in the game. It's just like, all right, they can hit you from so many different angles. The offensive line held up in pass pro. Like they just had so many ways to beat you. And so I'm curious, what is the thing that they're going to utilize this week? Because they can go deep. Tyquan Thornton has more deep targets than any player in the NFL so far this year. That's amazing. They've got that in their bag. Worthy adds a clear stretch elements to the defense. So what is he going to add this week? Is he going to be used more as a decoy in that regard? And you are able to go to Hollywood or Kelsey or Juju across the middle. They've got a lot of different ways that they can attack this defense. I'm truly like, it's a curiosity. I want to see what they do. I want to see what this looks like now that they've put it on film, that Worthy is this guy again. He's a real threat, and people have to take him seriously, which will impact the way that defenses play against the Chiefs again.
Yeah, I think like Jacksonville's defense has been legitimately, to me, one of the biggest surprises of the NFL season. And part of that is Devin Lloyd has been playing out of his mind, and Trayvon Walker's been really good too. And like, these are players that, prior to this or looked at as like guys who were underwhelming so far in their NFL careers. And maybe they just needed good coaches to like get the most out of them. But like their defense has been great, but it's also like when you look at the circumstances of the matchups, and it's why it's so hard to just assume that like, oh, Jacksonville's a great defense. I'm not discounting what they've done, but you go against the Panthers, you go against the Bengals, and you get half a game of Jake Browning, which actually was the best game of Jake Browning so far that he's played. And last week you go against the San Francisco 49ers team that is one of the best coach teams in the NFL. but they're missing everybody. Like it's just, they've been a fun team, and they're an interesting 3-1 team that I still think has like a much higher offensive ceiling than what we have seen from them so far. But like what we saw from the Chiefs last week is enough to make me think like this is just like a dramatic overmatch for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like they are just a better team. They are a more talented team. And this offense should be able to put up points again on Monday night, despite the fact that Jacksonville has been a surprisingly good defense, because that's how impressed I was with Worthy. That's how, like, Worthy opened things up so much and made things look so much easier. Like it was what Mahomes was trying to do with Tyquan Thornton. And Tyquan Thornton has been an impressive player for the Kansas City Chiefs so far, but Tyquan Thornton's not as good as Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy can win in multiple ways as a wide receiver. Like he's athletic, he's freaky fast, he can win with his route running, like, and he's just a simply more versatile player than Tyquan Thornton. And we saw what a dramatic difference that versatility makes to the Chiefs offense overall. Like, and Brashard Smith, I think, like, deserves a little bit more credit for what he's brought to the offense the last couple of weeks. And hopefully we see more of him moving forward. But like, this is the first time in 2 years that I'm ready. Like I'm ready to go all in and be like, I think they got it. Like I think they figured it out. And then when they get Rashee Rice back, it is just all gas. And I think they're going to be a legitimate problem.
And Ron, this is a defense that's going to play almost exclusively zone coverage. And we've seen this over the years. That's the kind of thing that the Chiefs can exploit.
And in particular, and I think watching them, I think you can throw on them. And now you mentioned a lot of players on their defense, Campbell and Lloyd. Lloyd's been playing great. Armstead up there, and we'll see about what's his name, the former number one pick, Walker. We'll see about him with his wrist surgery. But the guy you did name is, I think, their best player, and I think legitimately the one that could, if there is something that wrecks the game, it would be Josh Hines-Allen. And I watched him personally. Now, I don't think this player, shout out to a Kansas City kid, Ruskin High School, I don't think Ariante Ursery is anywhere in the same space right now, Josh Simmons. And I don't think Josh Simmons' coach will just leave him out to dry like Ariante Ursery, for some reason, was on an island against Josh Hines-Allen 62% of the pass snaps in an odd manner. But I watched him absolutely wreck and ruin that game. He tipped the ball and tipped his arm of Stroud to end that game, which led to a pick. Got another sack. He was dominant, and he can be that way. I don't know. I've always felt like he was like on that second level. Like there's the Crosbys and the Garretts and the Parsons, and then it felt like he was down the next. Not he's better than George, but not quite to that next level. But he's played at a dominant level at times this year, and I think that's going to be a big thing. Is, one, how does Josh hold up, and then with Andy and Nagy and the rest of the crew over there, Andy Heckendam, how do they also go ahead and help him? Right, he's been really, really good, and I have a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to hold up over there. But I think they can throw on him. But the thing that can get dicey is if Josh Hines-Allen is in one of those games.
Yeah, the reason I didn't mention him is because I knew we were going to talk about him here, and I wanted to be able to spend a little bit more time there. He's a really good player, and he's somebody that doesn't have the traditional numbers necessarily. He had that 1 year where he put up it was 15, 17 sacks or whatever it was. But beyond that, he's been a good sack artist. He's more of the pressure guy, though. He's going to consistently get pressure on your quarterback. This year, he's top 10 in quarterback hurries. He's top 3 in quarterback hits, but he only has the 1 sack on the season. So if you just look at the traditional numbers, you're not going to see some of the hidden production that he has, but he impacts the quarterback with real consistency. And if the Chiefs aren't careful, you mentioned it, Ron, he's the kind of guy that can take over a game. It's kind of similar. I remember when we talked about the Giants defensive line going into that game, they hadn't converted their pressures into real production yet. We've now seen over the last couple of weeks, especially last week against the Chargers, hey man, that's in there. And it was coming for somebody. And eventually it got the Chargers last week. It's the same thing for Josh Hines-Allen. He's going to put his numbers up. He's going to finish with around double digits when it comes to sacks. You just hope it doesn't come against you. And that's what you have to guard against.
Yeah. And I think if they can have the same type of effort they had against the Giants, then they'll be fine. Because I mean, the Giants obviously they've got better guys, and if they can have that, they'll be fine. Like Walker on the other side, if he plays, he's more of a work hard sack. Like he's not as good as George, but that's the kind of he ain't going around you, for the most part. He's more of a bull rush guy.
He's speed to power. He's a guy that's going to win with more power.
Yeah, yeah. I did like it. You brought that up, Serda, Rashad Smith. That that's a low key thing to look at. Is it looked like there was some roles starting to get developed with Pacheco, Hunt, and Smith, and it looked like we actually probably saw, at least from Pacheco and Smith, maybe their best games. After Isaiah dropped that ball and it looked like he may be up out of here, he turned it up and had a really good game, for him and how he's been playing here late. So that's one to watch too, to see what that three-headed monster and how they kind of divvy up, the time and how they use those guys.
The more Rashard Smith, the better, in my opinion. I think this team needs Isaiah Pacheco to get going. Eventually, my hope is that he will. I'm losing faith on that. I don't know how likely it is, but Rashard Smith just adds something. He adds some juice to the running game that I'd like to see more of. The other thing is he's just a weapon, right? They've been utilizing him in these jet sweep motions, and whether he gets the ball or not, he maintains the eyes of the defense. He just makes you flow in one direction. So I like the way they've been utilizing him. He ended up with 19 snaps last week. I know a lot of that was late in that game, but if you could maintain that like 15 to 20 snaps, maybe even increasing a little bit beyond that, I think that's a pretty good area for him. I'd like to see more and more of him on the field as this season progresses.
And this is actually an interesting matchup for that, because as good as the Jaguars defense has been on paper this season, they haven't been that great in terms of like receptions allowed to running backs. So this would be a good game to try to game plan a few more Rashard Smith snaps and plays. Like he could be super effective against this Jaguars defense.
Yeah, listen, when he's on the field, they got like three guys. There are times where they had three guys, three in a push, that can go and get 30 yards easy, chunk plays easy, and he's one of them. Like he's one that can get his hands on the ball and turn it into a big chunk play. All right, let's go over to the other side when the Jags had the ball. And to me, if you go and look at Trevor Lawrence's ranks, like in terms of important statistics for quarterbacks, and you think, oh, they're 3-1. Hey, bro, it's been rough. It's a bit rough. He has struggled, and he's had a lot of drops. Now, I will say that I literally watched him in a game have 3 consecutive passes dropped. Like that could have been big plays. So he's had some drops, but I don't know. Their passing game just isn't quite there yet at this point, and the hope is they continue to struggle. Like last week, their big road win, he threw for 176 yards, right? Like that, like he's not been tearing people up.
Have you looked at who leads them in receiving yards so far this year, Ron?
Washington or Brenton Strange, one of them.
It's Brenton Strange.
Strange has been letting him eat, man. He has been breaking tackles. That's who he's been able to get to, baby.
He has 182 yards through the first 4 weeks, and that leads their team in receiving yards on the season. It's been rough. Brian Thomas was one of the best receivers overall in the NFL last year, certainly one of the best rookie receivers, and he has been terrible so far this year.
And by far, so with that, and it's like, well, how have they had success? They've had success because they've got the fourth best rushing average per game than anybody in the league. They're over 144 yards a game. And Travis Etienne has been the master of the big play. If you watch it, and hell, you can throw Washington in that run game too, with his jet sweeps and the things that he does. And then that rookie, that young kid they got, he's a tough, powerful runner that Tootin. Once he gets going, he can roll. He's a kickoff return guy, and he also can hurt you in that space too at times. But they seem to have been good through the first 4 weeks. Like you went through all the turnover numbers. The other part that has been a constant for them, they seem to get a big chunk run every single game. 71 in the first one, 48 or 50 in this last one against the Niners he got in there. There's like a chunk run play every single game from those guys. And to me, that's where you got to stop. Okay, if you turn this sucker over to Trevor, who is awful under pressure this year, he's like 10 for 27, I believe, when he's under pressure. He's awful. You can turn this game over to Trevor like you forced at some point. I don't think you 100% forced, but you forced Derrick Henry off. Like, and you made this a Lamar Jackson game and him running around. You make this a Trevor game. Now you got real problems if you're Jacksonville.
I think some people have looked at some of the Chiefs' defensive numbers against the run this year, and they've been like, oh, Chiefs bad against the run. I haven't felt that this year. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think a lot of it is being influenced by some of the quarterbacks that they've gone up against more so than the running backs. I think they've actually done a pretty darn good job against most of the running backs other than, I mean, that Giants game just got a little wonky there for a little while. But
again,
overall,
60 yards is what he got.
It's a 70-yard garbage time Justice Hill touchdown. I'll inflate the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And then Scattaboo had a couple of weird runs in there as well. But beyond that, like they've been really good against running backs, and this has been the case now for a couple of seasons. But Travis Etienne is where this thing starts and finishes, man. Travis Etienne this year has runs of 18, 30, 48, 11, 11, 14, 17, and 71 yards. That's all come through 4 games so far this season. This dude has been an absolute monster, and they scheme it up really well. I think Liam Cohen has been one of the most impressive coaches that I've seen so far this season. I'm not sure the Jaguars are actually a talented or all that great of a roster. I think he's just done a really good job. And he did this last year in Tampa Bay as well, where their running game was much better in Tampa last year than it has been so far this year. At a certain point in time, maybe that's just Liam Cohen that's drawing it up really well, because Travis Etienne was also terrible last year, and he's been very good in Jacksonville this year. So he's the guy. If you can key in on him, and I mentioned earlier, Brian Thomas Jr. has not had a good start to the season. Just don't allow this to be the week that he gets going. If you can do both of those things and you pressure Trevor Lawrence, this offense doesn't, I don't fear them the way that I have feared some of the other offenses that have been on the Chiefs schedule so far this year.
And like, that's what I was saying earlier too, when like I look at this Jags team, like I know they're 3-1, like they're off to a good start. Defense has looked really impressive. I don't think the Jags are in the same tier as the Chiefs that we saw last week. Like I simply don't. I think Brian Thomas is a special player who is just off to a brutal start to the season. But I don't think this is the week that he's going to get right, because I think the Chiefs are simply too talented in the secondary. And what we've seen over the last 2.5 games from them is that they're going to try to take away what you're good at and what you have shown so far this season. And so that's going to be the run game. But I will say Liam Cohen like still had success against Steve Spagnuolo last season when he was with the Bucs, and he was scheming lots of things up. But for as great as their run game was last season in Tampa Bay, he was also scheming up tons of stuff in the passing game that isn't really translating to Jacksonville so far, in part because their offensive line's not great. Also in part because I think Trevor Lawrence is a downgrade from what he was getting out of Baker Mayfield last season. And so like, if you put pressure on Trevor, you can dramatically change the game and it's going to affect everything. And then if the game plan is key in on the run game, slow those guys down, I just don't really see a scenario where I think Jacksonville is going to be able to like pass on the Chiefs. Like I think this is a mismatch, despite the fact that Jacksonville on paper right now has a better record than the Chiefs.
One thing that is going to be interesting in that regard, Ron, like I agree, when Lawrence has been pressured this year, he's been very bad, and that's been a consistent theme throughout his career in the NFL. Yep. One thing that's been interesting though is they're getting rid of the ball much quicker, and he has not been somebody like their sack rate I think is the lowest in the NFL.
Well, I was going to say their offensive line has actually been really good.
So it's not as easy as just like, hey, blitz him, get the pressure on him, it'll be great. Like it is a tough thing to do, and most teams have struggled with that so far this year. And they, despite going up against some really crap offenses, like the Texans have a good defense, you know, and the 49ers have a couple of decent players on that side of the ball. Same thing is true, honestly, for Carolina. They got a couple of decent players on that side of the ball, but they have held up front to be able to give Trevor a little bit of time. And even when they go up against teams that can pressure him a little bit, he's getting rid of it quickly. So I'll be curious to see what the answer is there, because Lamar's a guy that holds it a little longer. Trevor will get rid of it. I wonder if the game plan looks a little different than it did last week for Spags.
But also he has turned it over. Like he's got 5 touchdown passes and 4 picks. Right. He didn't throw a pick in the last game. So he's got 4 picks in the first 3 games. And he tried to throw a pick. One was called back on a penalty. He threw one to the Niners. It was called back on a penalty. He's been putting it up for grabs, and he's just going to. And it tends to happen when he's under pressure. He threw an awful interception trying to get it to Travis Hunter in the end zone with the Bengals, just because Hendrickson came off the corner and got in his face, and he just threw it up, and it got picked in the red zone. So the Chiefs also, they have to be able to turn those into interceptions when he puts them up there. And I think that's been a big difference the last couple of weeks, is the Chiefs have been able to get turnovers, 2 in the last 2 games. All right, sir, to grab my music for me. Let's do a little certified and imposter. I say a statement. You let me know if it's certified or imposter. It is time to shut up about Jawan Taylor losing his job. It is time to shut up about Jawan Taylor losing his job. Certified or imposter, BK?
I think it's certified. I don't think he was ever likely to lose his job. I always felt like the one that I was honing in on was actually on the other side of the offensive line with Kingsley. And I got to give a shout out to Kingsley. He's been great the last couple of weeks as well. This offensive line has taken a real step forward. So his penalties are going to drive you absolutely crazy. I don't think that's going to change. But generally speaking, he's been all right this year in pass protection. I'd like to see more in the running game, but it is what it is. I don't think that's ever going to change. I think this is certified. I think he's going to be your starting right tackle, and I think that's fine. They've won a Super Bowl with him, and I think they could do it again.
Yeah, I think it's certified. Like, I think I brought it up a couple weeks ago when we talked about this. Like, I don't think he was ever in jeopardy of losing his job. And then he's coming off of his first game of the season where he didn't commit any penalties, or at least didn't get called for any. I think that has more to do with the Ravens pass rush than probably his play, but he's a serviceable player. They've won with him. The coaching staff likes him. Like, he's just not going anywhere. And like BK said, Kingsley's getting better. Josh Simmons is the real deal. Like, the offensive line's getting better. And as long as they continue to improve, Jawan Taylor's going to be the guy, and nothing's going to change.
Listen, it's certified, and it's because he shouldn't go anywhere. And I know I'll be honest to tell you, I let his penalties annoy me, and I do think there is a bit of first impression has lingered. I'm not going to lie. I react to his penalties in a way that is more than anybody else. I react like he had 3 penalties, like at once. And there is something to the thought of like, I mean, I think if they are annoyed with the penalties, I think if they thought that Jalen Moore was better, I think he'd be over there. Now, I'm not going to say they cannot win with him, but it is true. Like we could say he's serviceable, but I think it's annoying to say it, but he is really good when he's not, especially for what this team does. He's really good when he's not committing penalties. And I mean, we watched it down the stretch. I mean, we didn't hear a peep from TJ Watt last year when he went up against him, and his knee wasn't right. We didn't hear it wasn't coming from him. Will Anderson wasn't dominating him when they played them both times in the regular season and in the playoffs. He was holding it down. And really from a non-penalty perspective, like Brian Burns whooped his ass a few times. But I mean, he gonna do that to people. Like
Brian Burns is also kicking the shit out of everybody.
I was gonna say when
that guy's amazing.
When you're sitting there thinking, all right, here comes this joker coming off the edge. Like a lot of people make fun of him because Brian Burns just bum rushed him and bull rushed him to the ground. But when you're sitting there thinking, all right, I got to get out because this is the fastest edge rusher coming around the corner. This is D Ford coming around the corner, and then he decides to power you when you were trying to jump. Yeah, you're gonna look bad. Brian's gonna make you look bad. But I think we need to calm it down. Right? Like he commits one penalty. Like we act like now we act like Creed ain't over there committing something. We act like we don't see what Trey be getting them holding penalties. So I think we got to calm it down. All right, prediction time. I will kick it off. Jags, Monday Night Football, Chiefs on the road. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs in this game. I think they win 28-17. 28-17.
I'll kick it off from there. By the way, market really reacted to that Chiefs win. Chiefs go from a home underdog to a 3.5-point road favorite at Jacksonville, a team that's 3-1. We are all on the same page on their actual quality as a team, but a 3.5-point road favorite is real. That's like a 7.5-point home favorite for the Chiefs.
They've played two home games and they've been underdogs in both of them. They've been the last 3 Super Bowls. Go ahead.
It's crazy. Anyway, so I agree with the market. I actually don't think it's quite even big enough. I think the Chiefs will win this one like 27-20. I think they win by a touchdown. I think it could be one of those annoying games like the Chiefs typically play when they're not going up against the Ravens a week ago. They probably won't pull away at any point in time, but I do think they're the better team. I think they're quite a bit better than the Jaguars, and they ultimately win it by a touchdown.
Yeah, like I don't think that it's going to be as clean as last week was. If it is, that would be amazing. But I'm still not ready to just pick them to score 30 plus points. I got to see it a couple more times. But I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be something like 27-17. But I feel like that 10-point spread could feel like it's a lot larger throughout the entirety of the game.
Yep. I hope they don't do that. I hope they really make it feel like 37-13. That's what I'm hoping they do. We are out.